So I have the great pleasure of, actually I secured him. So Mike Rankin, how many people in our club know Mike Rankin? If you've been around the club for a while, you should know Mike Rankin. Mike Rankin joined our club in 2003, October 6th to be exact. I actually ran into Mike Rankin in my former life with state government, and Mike and I had seen each other at a number of functions. Then I came here, met him here. But since so many people raised your hands, and since there's so much news right now about what Mike's topic is, I'm just going to turn over the podium to him, and he can introduce his subject matter to you.
I don't really need a microphone, as probably some of you know. Again, thank you. It's really an honor, and thank you for having me as your speaker today. The topic that I'm here to talk about, self-driving vehicles are closer than they appear, is really a timely one in that. How many people looked at their dispatch today? Those of you old people like me that still get the paper, on the front page of the business section, and you can go online and look it up, it gives you, in a nutshell, everything that's happening and then some about self-driving vehicles. And Scott, hopefully my little, whoop, that didn't help. There we go. There's screen number 1. But again, I want to thank all of the Rotarians here, the guests here today, and hopefully we'll give you something that just that you can think about, because you know, I'm a kid that came from Toledo, Ohio, which is really kind of a suburb of Detroit. And if you had told me growing up that someday I'd be your BMV director under 2 different governors, I would have said, yeah, really. You know, I wanted to go to law school and did. But I got to tell you, I have had such a blast, not only doing that, but in my new job, I get to travel all over North America. And the company that I work for really works on some of this technology, because with self-driving vehicles, and you know, the question becomes is who owns what? We're really moving to a business model in the automotive world today, and the manufacturers are aware of this. And I know we have some esteemed auto dealers here in our midst of really rethinking the whole idea of, do we own and lease vehicles, or are we going to a ride-sharing model? And that really is on the horizon. It's happening already with Uber and Lyft. You've got your under 40 crowd. Some of them, particularly in the 16 to 24 age category, aren't even getting their driver's licenses. They find it easier just to use their smartphone and their apps to shop, and they Uber everywhere, or we got to use that other term, Lyft. But many entities will need to change their business models. Government's going to see fewer fines and revenue coming in. The insurance industry. How much money do you think insurance companies bring in a year? Anybody? Come on, let's hear some numbers. John, just get... Oh, come on. That's low. My goodness. How many, it is in the billions, how many billions is collected just for auto insurance premiums a year?
150.
I heard 150. I heard 50. Do I hear 200? It is $200 billion a year. And already the insurance companies know that when you get self-driving vehicles, and I'm not talking about that Tesla where the person wasn't using it correctly, because we're not there yet. We are not there where people driving Tesla cars or level 2 cars should be in the back seat, they should be in the front seat, they should be paying some attention to what's going on. But clearly self-driving vehicles will be, in the future, reducing automobile vehicle accidents and deaths. And at least that's what your National Highway Transportation Safety Administration is hoping. There's about 33,000 people that die every year here in America due to traffic crashes. About 90% of those accidents, no surprise, are a result of driver error. We're going from insuring the driver and the vehicle, right, to ensuring maybe who makes the vehicle, because again, the driver is no longer in charge. When you summon up a totally autonomous vehicle, and right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're at coming up on level 2. How many people here have, and we'll call them self-driving vehicle safety features in your car? Raise your hands, okay? I was using my wife's new car last night. She was in the back seat. I was driving, thank you, in the front seat because we had 3 dogs. Had to keep them separated. And you're driving down Route 4 coming back from our lake home, and boy, if you get a little bit to the right or left, those cameras do the beep, beep, beep. Well, let me tell you something. About a year ago, I'm with my boss, and we're in a GMC SUV rental truck, and it vibrates your seat. So if you go a little bit to the left, it vibrates the left cheek. If you go a little bit to the right, it vibrated the right cheek. Now my boss is over there on his computer working away. It's about 10 o'clock at night, and he notices I'm kind of doing this a little bit while I'm driving. He goes, what the heck you doing? I said, Steve, it feels good. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm getting vibrated. But it was clearly it was keeping me awake. So those kind of safety features, the backup cameras, the ability, and by the way, most of the manufacturers, I think, have committed to putting the feature in that will stop your vehicle before it collides with the one ahead of you. My wife has that feature, but ironically, it only works if you're going 32 miles an hour or more. And I'm thinking, well, heck, most vehicle crashes happen under 32. It's a Toyota. I love the brand. But in any event, what we see is a gradual introduction of these features, and you'll hear level 1 to level 5. American Society of Automotive Engineers said that there's actually 5 levels of self-driving automation. The top one, 5, NHTSA only recognizes 4, is complete self-driving. We already have 1. Again, all of you have those features, or not all of you, but quite a few of you, as you get new cars, have them. Level 2, let me tell you, the Cadillac STS, and probably about 2 days before I left your Ohio BMV in December of 2014, I had written a month before off to Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, not expecting Jack to get an answer back, but she responded to me. I don't know if it was her, but I got a response in 8 days, and a couple weeks later, she sent down 3 people to come and do a presentation for 3 hours. They were in our conference room, and it was just fascinating. Cadillac 2017 STS, and again, you're going to pay for all this. They will be level 2. You'll be able to get on a freeway, not in your neighborhood, but on your freeway, basically set your car, using the navigation equipment, and basically be able to drive from here to Toledo or here to Cincinnati or Cleveland or whatever. You still got to be behind the wheel, but it will be semi-autonomous. It will drive, it will speed up, slow down. Right now, if you have variable speed control, my wife has that. It's, it doesn't let you get right on top of somebody, but it slows down, and then it speeds up again to meet that speed. What was the first self-driving feature on a vehicle, and what year did it first come out? Now, you baby boomers out there should know this.
Automatic transmission.
What? No,
Automatic transmission.
not automatic transmission. No, a self-driving feature that's on just about everybody's car today.
Cruise control.
Cruise control. Absolutely, that's the correct answer. And what year did it come out? 1967. Okay? And if you go back, and by the way, you can YouTube this stuff. I didn't want to bore you with it today, but 1939 World's Fair, there's a little video showing the cars of the future, and it shows a family, and I love it, because Paul, these people are, the dad's dressed up in a suit, and I'm thinking, man, this guy, they didn't see in the future today to see how people get dressed. All these people, mom's all dressed up, the kids are dressed up, and they're in this self-driving car playing checkers. It's quite fascinating. It's a video from the 39 World's Fair. Well, then flash forward to 1958, and you have Disney shows self-driving vehicles, Jack, and they're on a single track in the roadway. And so, you might say that the vision for this wasn't that far ago, but when do you think that, and give me a year, how many years ago did folks start focusing on this self-driving thing, and where did it come from? Yeah, it actually goes back to an organization called DARPA, right, which has to do with defense folks. It actually goes back to the 90s, and they had a DARPA challenge that in 2003, they had these adapted, existing vehicles that they adapted with radar, with other sensors, cameras, GPS, and they were able to drive out in the desert, Jack, I guess a couple hundred miles. So that was really the first start. But Google and Apple and Bosch and some of these other tech companies have really been in the forefront, more so than the automotive manufacturers. And why do you think that is? Anybody want to guess? Why do you think you have tech companies, Amazon, Google, why are they all in this, creating these self-driving vehicles? Well, it certainly is changing their business model, right? But auto companies traditionally have been focused on manufacturing. They're not big on risk takers. But what you see today is GM, Ford, just about everybody, Chrysler, all partnering with these various entities to, again, further develop self-driving vehicles. In fact, I think it was Marchione, the CEO from Chrysler Fiat. His prediction is self-driving fully vehicles in 5 years. I would say to you that you gotta let the regulators catch up. And again, I still go to all of the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators meetings. I'll be at their Northeastern Conference next week. And the states are still kind of trying to absorb all of it. But we have a number of states who are kind of ahead of the game. California, Nevada, Michigan, Florida, and there's a few others out there that have passed laws to allow the testing of vehicles that are fully self-driving on the highways. They have to have a live person, though, in them. And you also have to have insurance. That's an important thing. But Michigan is currently considering bills that will allow platooning of trucks. Think about 18-wheel trucks that will be all robot operated, that will run up and down I-75, run up and down I-94. So there's a lot of interstate connections here, and not all of our states are up to speed or on board yet. I mean, the laws and regulations aren't there yet. So I think NHTSA realizes that, and although they've given the go-ahead to say, hey, all of you working on this, including Google and whatnot, develop your self-driving vehicle, but we have to let the regulatory people catch up. And this is not something that you obviously want to rush into, because many of you obviously heard about the crash involving the Tesla vehicle. The technology isn't quite there yet. Again, when it comes to blowing newspapers, blowing snow, there's things that the computers haven't quite figured out. But what's really at the heart of it all is something that, it's almost out of science fiction. It really is. When you hear that term, artificial intelligence. Jack, isn't that what the guy who always says, I'll be back? It's in all those movies where he's the Terminator, right?
I'm looking at him.
There we go. But seriously, artificial intelligence is the thing that is making this work. And in the next 4 years, you have, and you've heard of the Internet of Things, but you've got chips that are actually the size of a dot on the American dime. You know that picture of Lincoln? And those chips, when they're embedded into all these other devices, including your smartphone, right? Everybody here has got to have a smartphone, right? When you enter your vehicle, your smartphone will be, you won't even have to put it in a holder. It will just be in your pocket like mine was, and the car will say, welcome, Mike Rankin. Where are we headed today? It's kind of like Star Trek. To the airport. I have to catch a plane. Now, the interesting thing that's going to be challenging for us is there's privacy issues in that, like if I want my self-driving vehicle, who, by the way, I may not own it, I may instead pay a monthly fee where I just have the vehicle, I summon it, and it might not be the same one that comes and picks me up. Or maybe I want to have a certain vehicle, like a Maserati, come and pick me up, and I'm going to pay more for that. But that is the business model of the future. I may want it to take me by Starbucks. And by the way, I'm not a Starbucks person, but my daughter loves the place. But do I want my self-driving vehicle to drive me by Starbucks if that's not where I want to go, Jack? And so, it's just kind of like when my wife gets really upset when you get on the internet and you're Googling something and now you get all these pop-up ads and you're just trying to read the article. She says, damn it, I barely touch it and I get this other thing that pops up. Well, those are the issues that lie ahead of us there. Obviously, the safety issues are also of concern to everyone. But when you think about it, if we can develop artificially intelligent cars that can drive among us very unpredictable type human beings, because again, there's going to be a transition period, probably in the next 25 to 40 years. But it is predicted that by the year 2060, and I don't know where they came up with this number, but in 2060, you may not be allowed to drive a vehicle. Now, maybe off-road, maybe on a track somewhere, but you won't be allowed to drive a vehicle out here. It will all be self-driving vehicles. Why? Because hopefully at that time, we will have the technology down where, again, you're down to 0 accidents or close to it, 0 deaths. And again, impacting industries. The insurance industries are already disclosing this in their federal, 10Ks or whatever the heck they gotta file every year. Think about the impact for all of us baby boomers and older folks that, like I said to my table of esteemed gentlemen here, I really want to be able to have one of those so that when I drive to the lake, I can just take a nap like my wife does all the time when I'm driving. And I don't get, yelled at. Are you awake? Are you awake? Yes, dear, I am. But think about the impact of allowing people to stay in their homes longer. I remember my own mom and dad ended up giving up driving, but they still were living at home. And when that happened, then very shortly thereafter, it was assisted living. So the impacts there, the impacts of fewer fines, fewer taxes, the need for fewer expanded roadways because we'll be able to have more compact vehicles. Think about if you had a platoon of cars and trucks going down 270, 70, think of all the arteries in our town here that are packed, but everybody's moving along at 60 miles an hour. There's no stopping or slowing down to gawk. Now there might be, if there's an accident or whatnot, you would still have those slow-ups. But potentially you have better utilization of your infrastructure. And I'm sorry, I didn't really use my PowerPoint because I kind of covered it here. But some of the stuff that we all are coming to appreciate, parking assist. How many of you have that where your car can parallel park? I don't have that. For the baby boomers here, wouldn't that have been great if we had that back in 1970? I mean, I remember parallel parking my parents' big Buick Wildcat. Heck, it had its own zip code. So, think about being able to just do it automatically. The adaptive cruise control, lane assist support. Again, we already talked about the states there. And I just get a sense that although Marchione might say 5 years, I think it's going to be more like 5 to 10 years. But I posed a question earlier, like, why is it that tech companies are there? Because they've got the money. They have deeper pockets than do the automobile manufacturers. And that's why you have this unique partnering. Okay, LiDAR, we're talking about, hey, there's a Google car right there. Last November, it was stopped by a police officer in Mount View, California. That's where I think Google's at, for going 25 and a 35. It was slowing up traffic. Well, I don't know about you guys, but if I try to drive 55 out here on 315, man, I'm gonna get run over. You better be going 65. And so, again, these are some of the challenges with self-driving vehicles. You have your vehicle onboard cameras, GPS, you have your motion sensors and lasers. And I said earlier, your smartphone will be a big part of what you would call that syncing up with the onboard computer in your car. Let me see, make sure I didn't miss anything here. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, we're talking about a big impact on the insurance industry. What other industries are going to be impacted? Come on, you guys are all business people. John?
The anti-hacking industry. People that are hacking computerized cars.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the company that I work for, Gemalto, is right with all of these folks. They're the 14th largest software company in the world, and their focus is on helping they practically do all the financial institutions, all the telecom and telcos, and they make the, what do you call that, the chips that go in your phone, you know, that gives your phone the identity. Again, I work on the driver license side, so some of this is a little foreign to me, but they're very focused with providing secure connectivity, and because it would be very problematic if you could hack into a network and be able to send these cars careening everywhere. If you have a chance, those of you who are movie files, check out iRobot with Will Smith. Came out probably 10 years ago. It's got a prime example of self-driving cars in the future. And if you remember, Will Smith disables the self-driving feature, takes over, and look at the cars going through the intersection. There's no lights, but because it's all computerized, this chaos of cars going through the intersection by the hundreds every 1 minute, there's no accidents. That really is a potential for our future. But what other industries are impacted? Yes, sir.
I would think the highway construction industry probably would be. I assume there'll be sensors of some sort in the highways.
Absolutely. How about our shortage of truck drivers? I think Ohio always is in need of about 30,000 truck drivers openings. So if you have self-driving trucks, boy, there's an industry that's going to be impacted. Teddy?
Mike, State Highway Patrol, quite often the reason that they are able to stop, let's say, drug trafficking is because of something looking suspicious. Or how might that be impacted if they're all self-driving, nobody's doing anything wrong? Is it going to make it easier for that type of illegal activity?
Well, your point's quite well taken, because again, you could have a vehicle with nobody in it, right? Think about suicide bombing. Think about, as Teddy has said, trafficking in drugs. I don't know what kinds of things, again, it goes back to security, sensors, are there things that we can put in the vehicles that would detect illicit drugs or firearms or explosives or things of that nature. I think you're going to have videos on all cars. People can buy them now and put them in their windshield, and that's not a bad thing. Yes,
The
sir.
collision repair industry would be affected by that.
Absolutely. Big industry that's going to be impacted. So I think Gerber is the big one that's kind of bought up a lot of the smaller shops all over America. They just come to mind. Clearly that industry will be impacted. Yes, sir.
Do you think there'll be conversions of the vehicles that are on the road today, so that they'll be like they'll be upgraded to be self-driving, or are all these cars on the road going to be obsolete?
I don't think you're going to see conversions. Maybe if you're Jay Leno and you want to convert all those old cars in your garage to self-driving, but I don't think that's going to be the norm. I think, in fact, if what I'm reading is correct, the cost, think about the cost right now if you lease a vehicle and you factor in your monthly lease cost, your insurance, your gasoline, your maintenance. You're probably looking on a typical vehicle, and I'm probably a little bit low here, maybe $700 a month. Think about if you could fractionally share or be part of a ride-share system. And that's why Uber, my God, the Saudis just invested $3.5 billion in Uber, right? And they already had $60 billion as a startup company. You have GM that invested $500 million into Lyft at the end of last year. So I think what you're going to be seeing is people getting away from ownership or leasing vehicles to just fractional, if you will, ride sharing. And you pay a monthly fee. If you want to have a fancier car pick you up, that's fine. But you know, think about these cars always being available and nearby. Like my wife says, well, I don't want to wait 5 minutes. I said, honey, you're not going to have to wait, but maybe a minute or 30 seconds. These cars will be right in the neighborhood. Think of how it affects parking garages, right? I mean, all of these things, you know, have significant impacts, and it's probably going to happen in some of our lifetimes. Yes, sir.
We have an issue with infrastructure, maintenance and roadways. Imagine a future in which first we have self-driving cars only can go on these highways, and later we have your old car can't go on the highways because these highways are only suitable for self-driving cars, and the implications that makes for highways.
But I think that they're devising these so you don't have to have that separation, John. So I really, that's a good point, but I really don't think you're going to have to put sensors in highways. We already have the technology, if you will, to have these vehicles out on our existing highways with doing nothing really to the highways, except maybe ensure that we have painted lines that the camera can see. But again,
you don't want us humans cluttering up that self-driving highway.
Well, and that's why I say by 2060, we may all be banned from driving. You will no longer get a driver's license from your BMV. Yes?
What happens after a night of drinking and you want to go home? Will the car allow you to get into it? Or?
Assuming you know how to summon it off of your app while you're intoxicated.
You haven't put a breathalyzer in it?
But there would be no reason that it wouldn't pick you up, because Google has already gotten permission to have a car with no wheel, no brake pedal, no accelerator, none of the controls. So it's truly perfectly autonomous. There's no way that you could be gacked up on 20 different kinds of drugs and alcohol. And as long as you can summon the vehicle and it takes you, it really cuts down on the OVI, doesn't it? I mean, that's another industry potentially that will be impacted. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned how good the vehicles will be for older folks.
Yes.
I hope the plans include making vehicles accessible for people with disabilities as well.
Excellent. Well, think about this. Your Ohio BMV takes in about 10,000 medically impaired referrals a year, and it has nothing to do with age. It just has to be with different medical impairments of a variety of kinds. They manage a portfolio of about 100,000 of these cases. So it will be have a tremendously positive impact on persons with disabilities or handicaps to be able to get around, to be able to, again, that will require, depending on if you're in a wheelchair, maybe a van picks you up instead of a Google car, or a GM or Ford or whatever else. But think about the impact on mass transit. I think we're still going to need buses and mass transit. Certainly New York will. But think about the folks that, you know, live out in the hinterlands of Ohio, who like being out in the country, who are older, and want to be able to go to the store, go to the doctor, and to have that self-driving vehicle pick them up. It's remarkable. And again, as long as you can make it affordable, that you're not pricing people out of that ride-sharing thing. Yes?
What happens when you have a tire problem as you're going down the freeway at 60 miles an hour?
I think you're still going to need AAA. Yes, sir.
So, to me, the most interesting aspect of the driverless car is this idea of the AI or the computer program deciding whether my life is valuable or this other person's life. I don't want a car that I own deciding that some protesters or people that run into the road, because this is what we're facing. These cars are going to have to, someone's going to program these cars to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I plow over the protesters in the street, or do I swerve the car into a wall and kill the occupant? And so I'd rather my car put my life at or make a decision that ideally saves everyone, but of course this is really, I was wondering what you've heard about that or what.
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, you must have been reading the article, which I have right here, that was by CNN. And it's entitled, "Driverless Cars Create a Safety Dilemma, Passengers versus Pedestrians." And that was just recent. So you're right on point with your question. And here's the neat thing. I think they're making the technology so that, your vehicle is considering multiple threats and difficulties and so forth, and probably can be better attuned to making those decisions at just disabling, just stopping or pulling over to the side of the road or doing whatever. But it's just like, remember in Star Trek, Captain Kirk was presented with those impossible scenarios, and they had a name for it. And what is it? Kobayashi Maru. There's going to be those, those occasions, and I think the technology probably will do a better job, maybe not today, but down the road, at being able to address that.
Everybody, when they're all driverless cars, that'll be fine, but
Yeah.
that transition time.
Yeah, and again, the fact that we'll still have human beings driving with these driverless cars, that's going to make the technology better. Because even the folks at Tesla have said, because they got kind of aggressive in putting the software upgrade out to folks that wanted to purchase it for the self-driving feature, is that it learns. It's a software that learns. So that's a good thing. Jack, you're
Chip Chapman, please stand up. Chip is head of the program committee, and I want to thank Chip and the committee for bringing the best first opening program I've ever heard. Thank you both. Don't forget next week to bring your iDevice, and we can't drive you home, but we'll make you connect the rotary. This meeting's